Right, Tottenham Hotspur take on Chelsea on Saturday, 5:30 p.m. kickoff at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Thomas Frank has confirmed that Christian Romero, Destiny Udogie and Wilson Odobert are all fit and available for this clash against Chelsea. Spurs are currently in third place in the league table and Chelsea are down in ninth. Now, Gareth, of course, Spurs went out of the Carabao Cup on Wednesday. Last weekend, though, it was a good professional performance from Tottenham. Set pieces galore, 3-0 away win at Everton. And Chelsea, last time out in the Premier League, lost 2-1 at home against Sunderland, but they did win their Carabao Cup game midweek, 4-3 against Wolves. How do you see this one going? And it's fantastic news, isn't it, from Thomas Frank, that the fact that Captain Christian Romero is back.
Huge game on Saturday at 5:30. There's a lot of, we spoke about the Fulham Wolves game, Chris, the jeopardy involved here. I think there's a lot of jeopardy involved in this game because it's no secret that both managers haven't got the full backing of both fan bases. I think there's still a lot of Tottenham fans questioning Thomas Frank. There's a lot of question marks from Chelsea fans, and there was so last year as well about Maresca. I think both these clubs this season have had steps forward, but then they've had our games where they've took steps back. There's a lack of consistency, I think, with both teams. Just on Chelsea, Chris, I think you don't know what you're going to get with Chelsea from week to week. I think that's a massive problem for the manager. I don't think he knows his best team because he's got so many players, especially in that attacking area. He chops and changes it quite a lot, and we're seeing Arne Slot at Liverpool now. He's got more attacking options, having the same problems. And Chris, sometimes I know we speak about it as Spurs fans, squad depth, but sometimes too many players can be a negative as well, especially so many players at a similar level. I don't think Chelsea have two outstanding wingers who have them spots nailed down every week. I think there's 4 or 5 players of a very similar level. So constantly the manager's trying to chop and change to find his best two, and I don't think that helps with fluidity in the final third. We're seeing the same, Chris, with Thomas Frank. 1 week it's Odobert, the next week it's Johnson. Kudos has nailed down that right-hand side spot. We've seen Tell play through the middle. We've seen Richarlison play through the middle. We've seen Miani play through the middle. So I think there's a lot of similarities with both teams this season, and it's reflected in the results. Yes, Spurs have picked up more points than Chelsea, but you look at a lot of the games that Spurs have played on. Some of those results were fortunate, like you pointed out, the Wolves game. But like you say, coming into this game on Saturday, the fact that Romero is back is a big one. Udogie, I think, is back as well, which is going to be massive for balance on that left-hand side. Odobert was out for a short time, but he looks to be back as well. So he's got more options. I'll be fascinated to see what Thomas Frank does come 4:15 on Saturday with the team selection, because Danzo hasn't put a foot wrong. Yep. Does Danzo automatically come out of the team because Romero's the captain and seen as a better player? That's a big call for the manager, because if Romero comes on and he's not 100% match fit and makes a mistake, then the manager has to take the responsibility for that. Will he change his system? Will he go with a back three? Because we've seen him do that in the PSG game. I think at the minute Spurs are crying out for a change of system. Would that help today? Would that catch Chelsea off guard? I think that would be a massive one, a massive call. But I think both managers have huge calls they weigh up in their head before those lineups are announced at 4:15 on Saturday of the team selections, because I think team selection is going to be key for this game for both clubs.
Gareth, how would you describe Thomas Frank's time at Spurs so far? Because he's definitely brought a calmness to the side, and of course made us a team a lot more difficult to beat than Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham last season. But of course, in that final third, it does worry me. It does worry me a lot, the fact that on Wednesday against Newcastle, we had Richarlison up front. It didn't look like we were going to score. Then, of course, he changed it. Mawani and Tell were then playing up front at the end of the game. I wasn't convinced by them. Is it fair to say that the number one priority in the next transfer window, whether it be January or in the summer transfer window, that Spurs really do need to strengthen in that final third? Because we cannot keep relying on the the magic of Mohamed Kudus. He has been a fantastic player, an outstanding player for us since signing in the summer from West Ham. And of course, you've mentioned João Palhinha as well. He's been fantastic for us. But in that final third, do the players that we have got, do they excite you?
Well, funny enough, we had this conversation a few days ago, didn't we? Who are the exciting players at Tottenham? And I think one of the names that keeps coming up, Chris, is Mickey van de Ven, who's the centre half. He is one of the more exciting players to watch. So I think automatically, without even mentioning names of Spurs attackers, that is a worry in itself, that people view a centre half as one of the more exciting players. And whilst Mickey is a very exciting player, he shouldn't be top three. He shouldn't be the first name comes into your head after Mohamed Kudus. And I think that the problem that Spurs have had, Chris, and we've seen this with the recruitment over a number of years, where there's a reluctance to pay what maybe seems over the odds for a top player, and we've kind of tried to replace that with maybe buying two players for the same fee, and that has backfired so much, not just under this regime but previous regimes, where we've ended up letting players go for peanuts who, after maybe various loan spells, haven't done anything at the clubs they were sent to. They've cut their contracts, have ran down them. We've lost every bit of money we paid on them. So there is a massive problem with recruitment. I think this summer was slightly better because we've brought in, like you said, Kudus, Palhinha. The most disappointing one was Simmons. So far, we haven't seen enough. And the most worrying thing, Chris, is we haven't seen any signs that that's going to change in the near future. We haven't seen any glimpses of Simmons. They think, do you know what? Maybe in a couple of more weeks. You have?
I have. I've seen some glimpses of Javi Simmons where I do feel excited about him going forward, but I do feel like he needs to work on his physicality, upper body strength, certainly. And it's funny because if you haven't listened to the embargoed press conference that came out Friday, 10:30, Thomas Frank, he seems to be very, very confident and adamant that we will get the best out of Javi Simmons and we will see, the player that we all thought that we bought. I know some players, when they come to the Premier League, they don't hit the ground running, but we do have quite high expectation of him. I have seen glimpses of, I'll give you an example. Thomas Frank said it a couple of weeks ago in a press conference that Javi Simmons sees passes that other players don't see, and I definitely see that. I've seen that in quite a few games where he's played a pass and you think, yeah, one of our other players on the pitch, and it's no disrespect to any player, but they wouldn't have seen that pass. So I do see what he means, but I think there is such a high level of expectation given the price tag as well.
Yeah, I think he's feeling the pressure as well of that. I think that is, and he's a young kid. He's come on with a big reputation, and maybe it will take some adjustment time. But Chris, just going back to what he says about Thomas Frank, I mean, I read an article yesterday, Jamie Carragher did. I don't know if you've seen it, about Thomas Frank. For a manager that come in the summer, Spurs have finished 17th, albeit Europa League champions. To get them on the third, going into November, you would think that would be viewed as almost like incredible progress. Yeah. But I think the biggest concern that Tottenham fans have at the moment is the way we're playing and the way we're winning games. It's not entertaining. And Jamie Carragher referenced that as Spurs fans are obsessed with. It's not just about winning games. They want to win games playing a certain way. So maybe that is something that Spurs fans need to move away from. But I think it's difficult, Chris, because I know you're a few years older than me, but I've always grown up with maverick, exciting Tottenham teams that maybe didn't win trophies, but they were always exciting to watch. And I've spoken to some Spurs fans recently, and they says that you don't enjoy going to the games as much, even if they do maybe pick up the odd one. They're not getting excited. It's boring. It's only exciting when there's a long throw going into the box or a set piece. And I think we are a very peculiar club in that way, that we do expect a certain style of play, and I think that's why so many fans give Ange the benefit of the doubt, because even when we were losing games, it was exciting to watch. And I think Thomas Frank's got to strike that balance of being hard to beat, being organised and structured, but maybe letting the leash off, especially at home, Chris, because you go every home game, every away game, but especially at home, Chris, how important it is for Spurs fans. They be seeing victories, and it's only 3-1 in the last 18 games, and I know Thomas Frank hasn't been responsible for all of that, but in the games that he's been there as manager, I can't think of one really good performance, and that has got to change. The Spurs fans have got to be feeling some sort
Yeah.
of excitement going to the stadium, because, Chris, too many times I was at the Aston Villa game, after about 10 or 15 minutes, it feels so flat, and that definitely transmits to the players on the pitch. But it's up to the players and the managers to get the crowd on side. And I think today they will have the crowd, or on Saturday at 5:30, they will have the crowd right up until kickoff. But if it turns into a familiar feel, it will lose that feeling of being a London derby, and that cannot happen today. The players have got to transmit that energy to the fans, and that will help the team on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. I said the same under Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte, actually, when people were questioning their systems and their type of football at Tottenham. It's always, you can always get away with it when you're winning games, but when you're not, that's when a lot of people will question it. But I do get exactly what you mean. As Spurs fans, every fan wants to be entertained. Of course, the results are very, very important as well. But I'm not reading too much into the league position. I must say, I'm not getting carried away at all. Because, like I said in the intro, only 4 points separate teams from 3rd to 10th. So, 1 or 2 wins, 1 or 2 defeats could put a team, suddenly sitting in 3rd down to 10th within, 7 to 10 days. So I'm not going to get carried away by league position right now.
Chris, the next 3 games in all competitions are huge. You think about, 3 home games against Chelsea, Copenhagen, and Man United.
Yeah.
We could be sitting in over a week's time in an unbelievable position in the Premier League and in the Champions League, because yes, we've been fortunate to get those away draws against Monaco and Bodo Glimt, but if you had offered Spurs fans at the start of the season, 2 wins and 2 draws from the opening 4 games in the league phase, I think that would have been seen as a good start in the Champions League and on course to qualify for the next stage. And I think if you won your next 2 games in the Premier League against rivals for those Champions League positions, we've been in an unbelievable position, and then maybe we can start to look forward. But conversely, Chris, like you've mentioned, lose the next 2 home games in the Premier League, and you're going to be sitting mid-table, and people will be criticising the style of play. Do we want to watch crap football every week just to be a mid-table team? No, so the next 2 games is huge for the players, for the manager, and for the fans. I think Thomas Frank can win over a lot of fans with his team selection and these next 3 games at home. For me, there needs to be more progressive players on the pitch in these games. They try and win them, because I don't want to be sitting here in a few days' time, and hearing the manager talk about a great point against Chelsea at home. For me, against Chelsea at home, we should be targeting 3 points. I can understand it away from home at Stamford Bridge, you would maybe take a point before kickoff, but at home against a Chelsea team who have been vulnerable, conceding a lot of goals, struggling to keep 11 players on the pitch, manager doesn't know his best team, and they've got injury problems themselves. So this is an opportunity today to get 3 points, and I would like to see a brave team selection from the manager.
Gareth, talking about team selection, while I read a couple of these stats, I'm going to get your predicted starting 11, what you think Thomas Frank will do. And I hate these stats, by the way, because Spurs do have a dismal record against Chelsea in Premier League history. Now, Spurs have won just 1 of their last 13 Premier League games against Chelsea, drawing 2 and losing 10, losing the last 4 in a row since a 2-0 home win back in Feb 2023. And Chelsea have won 5 of their 6 Premier League games against Spurs at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium since we moved in there in 2019, earning more victories at the ground than any other visiting side. Now, I've often said, and I hate the stats, as I've said many, many times over the years, we've only ever won once away at Stamford Bridge in Premier League history. We've only ever won once away at the Emirates. We also won once at Highbury since the start of the Premier League beginning, 92-93. So it's a really poor record away from home. Of course, as you just mentioned, at home, you've got to be winning games against your biggest rivals. Gareth, before we do score predictions, how do you expect Thomas Frank to set up? I know you mentioned about a possible back 5, if you like. He was asked this question about Romero coming back, from injury. Is it possible that you could go back to, could go to a back 5? And he didn't really answer the question, which does seem it could be possible.
Yeah, what I would just like to say, what I would do and what I think Thomas Frank will do would be different. So if anyone's watching thinking, oh my
Give
God,
us both. Give
I don't
us
like it.
both then.
Right, I think he's going to go. I think he's going to go with a back three because I think Danzo's been so excellent that you can't really drop him. And he's a threat with his long throws, and he's a big physical presence.
Yeah.
And I have to say, other than maybe lacking a wee bit of technicality on the ball, which I think has improved because he's played more games, I think he does look as less nervous on the ball now that he's had a run in the team. But I think Romero's a different level on the ball, as is Van de Ven. But I think off the ball, he's been excellent. So I think he'll go with Danzo, Romero, Van de Ven. I think if you doggies anyway fit, he'll come in and play that left wing back role because I think he gives you a real threat going forward. Porro will play in the right wing back role. I think he'll go with Palhinha and Bentancur as a 2. So, and then he'll go with Kudos, Muyani, and I've got a funny feeling he'll bring Tellin today.
No Richarlison.
No Richarlison.
It's interesting. It's interesting, Gareth. Sorry, I was going to say on Friday afternoon, it's interesting how the Spurs media team put up a post of Richarlison scoring 2 fantastic goals, top bins, and most of the replies from the Spurs fan base were, "Please do it in a game. Why doesn't he do it in a game?"
Yeah, well, that's a different story, isn't it? No, I think Richarlison played on Wednesday, so I think he'll bring Muyani in. I just have a feeling he'll bring Tellin. I don't think he'll play Odegaard, and I don't think he'll play Brennan Johnson. He's been quite poor, let's be honest. What I would do, Chris, I would go with back 4. I would leave Romero out because Danzo's done so well. I would go.
You can't. You cannot leave Romero out of this team, especially against Chelsea at home. You cannot do that.
I think I'm all for playing players that are match fit and in form, so I wouldn't change that back lineup. I would go with Vicario, Porro, Danzo, Van de Ven. I'd bring you Doggy in actually, just because for the balance of being a left footer, I think it helps. I would go with a midfield 3 of Palhinha, Sarr, and Bergville. So a lot more progressive, and I think Bergville and Sarr for their legs as well and their energy, I think would be massive for a game like this. And then I would go with a front 3 of Kudos, Muyani, and that is a big one on the left side. I'm not. You could pick any one of them because they've all been poor recently, but I would maybe chance Xavi Simons just because he's got something. There's something there about him. But it's a pick 'em really. None of them have done enough, but I would play someone. I would just love to see Bergville and Sarr in there beside Palhinha on Saturday. I think that would give everyone a lift, and I think it would show the intention of we're not coming here to draw the game, we're coming here to win the game. And also as well, Bentancur's played a lot of football, so I think you've got to start changing it up slightly here because players are going to be running out of steam. So I think Palhinha, Sarr, Bergville would be my midfield 3. I know Romero will be one that people are scratching their heads about, but I just think Danzo's done so well. Why risk changing it? But look, everyone's entitled to their opinion. But I just have a feeling he's going to go with a back 5 today for the reasons that I mentioned. Danzo's been playing so well, he may feel that he can't drop him. And also the fact that Romero's his captain and seen as one of our better players. So kill 2 birds with 1 stone, bring the 2 of them on, push Porro and Udogie higher up the pitch, and have that strong axis of Palhinha and Bentancur. I just think that's what he'll do today.
Gareth, I think this game is going to be an excellent advert for the Premier League. I think it's going to have absolutely everything. I think there's going to be goals galore. I think there's going to be incidents, VAR. I think there's going to be a red card in the game. Of course, Chelsea have had 6 red cards in their last 9 games. Unbelievable. I'm going to go for a 3-2 Spurs win.
Do you know what, Chris? The one positive, well, there's more than one positive, but what I will give Thomas Frankie's dues for, and I know I've been quite critical of the team selection at times and the lack of progressive football through the pitch. Spurs are a lot more organised.
Yeah.
They don't look like a team that's going to make a crazy error or a moment of madness. They look.
It's not that. It's not that. A London derby. Crazy things happen. We've seen this many times.
But if you look at both teams today and you look at that record that Chelsea have, I think Chelsea are more likely to have a moment of madness in them than Spurs. So I think Spurs today, if they can keep 11 players on the pitch, don't give away any sloppy goals, they'll win this game, because I don't trust Chelsea to keep a clean sheet. I think they're quite vulnerable, and I also think they're quite petulant. And it's often going into these games over previous seasons. Spurs have been the team that you sense have vulnerability in them. I think that's kind of switched today, and credit to Thomas Frank for that. So I do think Spurs are the favourites today. I don't think it'll be a pretty watch. I do think it will be making sure that we keep clean sheet, and making sure that we're difficult to break down, and knowing that Chelsea are going to struggle to keep a clean sheet. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 Spurs 1.
Okay. Let's hope the crowd are up for it as well.
Yeah.